Black screen. The sound of an old projector begins to roll. Dusty film scratches flicker across the darkness, like memories fighting to stay alive. A dim street lamp appears. A young boy stands beneath it, hugging himself against the cold narrator. VO, he was born into a world that never gave him a reason to smile, so he made it his mission to give the world a reason instead. Fog rolls across the slums of London. A narrow alley. A broken wooden door. A mother humming softly to keep her children calm. A young boy watches his mother rehearse in the mirror, her voice delicate but trembling. Unarart, or his mother believed the stage, was where dreams lived. He believed she belonged on that stage. But life had other plans. One night, her voice cracks during a performance. The crowd begins to laugh. Not kindly. Someone pushes the little boy forward. He steps onto the stage, terrified, then begins to sing. The crowd falls silent, then applause. On a rarator, he didn't know it. But history had just opened its curtain for him. Years pass. The boy becomes a street performer. He's dancing with a troupe, juggling coins, pretending he isn't starving. An orator. Laugh bought him a meal. Every cheer kept him warm for one. More night, pain was his teacher. Hunger was his motivation, and hope was the only thing he could afford. He learns timing, emotion, control, and most importantly, how to speak without saying a single word. A ship horn echoes. He stands on a ship, watching London fade behind him. On a rate, Hurry wasn't running. Away from his past, he was. Chasing a future big enough for his dreams. America, the land of opportunity and silent films. A tiny studio hires him. They don't know what to do with him. They just know he's different. Someone hands him a pair of oversized shoes. Another gives him a cane. He finds a tiny mustache. Almost as a joke, he steps in front of the mirror, and for the first time, sees the face that will change the world. A small walk. Smile, the character is born. Scenes of crowded theaters laughing uncontrollably. Unaratorator. World met a wanderer, a survivor, a clown with dignity. A poor man with pride. He became a symbol of human struggle. Wrapped in comedy, he didn't perform to make people forget their problems. He performed to remind them they weren't alone. Clips of his masterpieces flash: a child being protected in The Kid, a blind girl being loved in City Lights, factory worker fighting the machine in Modern, TNS's a lone voice standing against tyranny in The Great Dictator. Unararter, he did what very few could do. He made laughter meaningful. He made silence louder than words. He made cinema human, but greatness always invites controversy. Newspapers begin flashing across the screen. Suspicious, un-American, troublemaker, unwelcome. He stands in courtrooms. He sits alone in dressing rooms. He reads headlines that wound deeper than any critics. Review: political storms rise. Public opinions shift. The man who made the world laugh becomes a target. Unararty, or the same nation that once loved him, began pushing him away. He boards a ship with his family. As the American coastline fades, he stands silently, knowing he may never return. Switzerland. A calm lake. Snow resting on empty roads. He writes. He remembers. He dreams. Unarator. Her exile didn't silence him. It only made him more honest, more reflective, more human. He creates Limelight, a film about an aging performer fading from the world he once ruled. The character weeps. He weeps with him. Years later, he returns briefly to receive an honor. He steps onto a stage. The crowd rises to its feet. The applause does not stop. Unarart was the longest standing ovation in the awards history. They weren't clapping for it, comedian. They were clapping for a lifetime of courage. He stands there, overwhelmed, tears in his eyes finally, knowing the world hadn't forgotten him after all. Night, Anne. The old man walks slowly through his garden. Under a sky full of stars, he pauses, looks up, smiles. Softly, narrator VO. He lived through hunger, heartbreak, exile, and fame, but he never stopped believing in one simple truth, that laughter is the soul's greatest medicine, and sometimes the smallest smile can save the darkest day. The screen fades too. Black dot silence. Then the soft hum of an old projector stopping. A white line of text appears at the very bottom of the black screen, not a title, just a whisper. He made the world laugh and taught it how to feel. The screen remains black for a moment. Wind rustles softly. The faint sound of distant laughter echoes not loud, but warm, fragile, almost like a memory refusing to disappear. A slow fadine reveals an old wooden writing desk. A notebook lies open, its pages yellowed with time. A fountain pen moves shakily across the surface. An elderly hand wrinkled, gentle, familiar narrator VO as his world grew quieter. His memories grew louder. We see Chaplin sitting beside a window overlooking the Swiss Alps. Snowflakes dance outside. Glowing under the pale morning sun, he pauses, closing his eyes, listening not to the wind, not to the birds, but to imagined a plaza sound that lived inside him long after the world had moved on. He turns a page in the notebook. On it are faint, drawing sketches of the tramp, dancing, tipping his hat, stumbling with grace. Unerated or he had spent a lifetime making the world forget its troubles. But now, alone in his study, he confronted his own. He lifts the sketchbook, touches a small caricature of himself as the tramp, and smiles. Honor art, or he missed the little fellow, not because of fame, but because the tramp represented the boy he once was, naive, stubborn. Hopeful. Cut 2, a garden bench. Leaves drift quietly onto the grass. Chaplin sits with his wife, Una. She rests her head on his shoulder. Late afternoon sunlight filters through the branches, painting golden patterns on the ground. Anne Arato, where she was half his age, but twice his strength. When the world turned its back on him, she opened a door. When his past tried to haunt him, she became his future. We see them laughing softly. Not the laughter of crowds, the laughter only two souls share when they have survived storms together. Inside the house, children run through the hallways. Footsteps echo, followed by giggles. Chaplin watches them from the doorway, his eyes filled with a tenderness that stings. Honorard, who heard he had spent decades pretending to be a father to the world. Before he learned how to be a father at home, one of the children brings him a hata small. Broken bowler hat they found in the attic. He puts it on. The child claps. Chaplin performs the signature tramp walk slow. Exaggerated steps, the wobbling cane, the innocent swing. The children burst into laughter. For a moment, the decades disappear. He is young again. Cut to night. A single lamp glows on his desk. Chaplin sits at his piano, fingers trembling as they move across the keys. A soft melody fills the room, one of his own compositions. Simple, beautiful, filled with longing. Unararter, he was not only a comedian or an actor, he was a composer, a storyteller, a painter of emotion. Music was his secret language, one spoken when laughter was not enough. He closes his eyes, letting the notes carry him to places he once knew. London streets, vaudeville stages, Hollywood studios, crowds roaring with joy. His fingers slip. The sound stops. He stares at the keys. An orator age had crept into his hands, but his imagination remained young. Later, we see him sitting by the fireplace, warming his tired hands. The flames reflect in his eyes, a mixture of wisdom and sorrow. Una sits beside him, holding his arm. Neither speaks. They don't need to. Una Reiter had once lived in the spotlight of millions, yet his brightest moments were these silent evenings with the woman who never asked him to be legend. She only asked him to be her husband. Cut A. Stack of letters, fan mail from around the world, children's drawings, thank you notes, photos from strangers whose lives he had touched. Chaplin opens one envelope slowly. Inside is a handwritten note. Dear Sir, I've never spoken a word in my life, but when I watched your films, I laughed for the first time. Thank you for giving a voice to those who have none. Chaplin's eyes watered. He presses the letter to his chest. Unerotterate, or for a man who built his art on silence. He heard more hearts than any voice ever could. Outside, night deepens, stars scatter across the sky. Mirroring the sparkle once found in his eyes, Chaplin steps onto the porch. Wrapped in a thick coat, the cold air fills his lungs. He looks upward. Unarart, he often said that the universe is a stage, and we are all just actors searching for our scenes. He raises his canna gesture done thousands of times, as if tipping it to the cosmos one last time. A faint smile appears, not the smile of a performer. The smile of a man at peace. Cut to his study the next morning. The chair is empty. The notebook remains open. A sketch of the tramp looks almost alive. In the morning light, footsteps approach. Una enters quietly. She touches the chair. Then the sketch. Then closes her eyes. Unerrateret. Our great men never truly leave this world. They leave echoes, stories, frames of light and shadow where their spirit continues to dance. The camera slowly pulls back. The old projector sound begins again, faint but steady as if rewinding through time. Images flash, the tramp tipping his hat, helping a blind girl, eating the shoe in the gold rush, running through the gears in modern times, delivering the speech in The Great Dictator, a life replayed in light. The screen returns to black dot. Narrator VO. He taught us that life is best understood not with words, but with heart. A soft silence follows, not empty, but comforting. A single line appears in white at the bottom of the screen. His film ended, but his smile never did. The screen fades in softly, revealing a quiet morning mist settling across the Swiss countryside. Birds fly low over the lake, their reflections trembling in the still water inside the house. A young child tiptoes through the hallway. He pauses at the study door, half open, letting in a pale beam of sunlight. The notebook on the desk hasn't moved. The child walks closer, gently touching the edge of the table as if it holds something sacred. Narrator VO. The world may have known him as a legend, but to his children, he was simply the father who made their shadows dance on the walls at night. A faint echo of laughter drifts through the house, not present, but remembered. Cut to the living room. The family gathers near the fireplace. Una sits quietly, holding Chaplin's cane in her hands. Her fingers trace the familiar curve of the handle. Her eyes glisten, not with grief, but with gratitude. Narrator she had walked beside him through storms and sunlight. She saw the man behind the mustache, not the icon the world adored, but the soul who carried both pain and poetry in every heartbeat. The children gather around her, leaning gently against her arms. She smiles, even as her voice trembles. Una softly, he's still here, just in a different room now. Later that day, the family projector whirs to life. Dust dances in the beam of light. On the wall, the tramp appears wobbling, tipping his hat, performing with a joy that feels eternal. The children laugh. Una watches the screen, her smile widening. Unerrat hurt, who once said the most beautiful sound in the world was a child's laughter. Perhaps that is why his films never age, because innocence was there. Heartbeat as the film continues. The camera moves slowly toward the screen. Chaplin's face fills the frame, wide eyes, tiny mustache, that unmistakable spark. For a moment, it feels as though he is looking directly at us. Cut to an editing room from decades earlier. Chaplin sits surrounded by his film reels, his sleeves rolled up, his face tense with concentration. He moves frames by hand, examining every second as though it is a fragile secret. Unarada, her, never left a moment to chance. He believed a single frame could change a heart, and a single gesture could save a soul. We see him testing camera angles, rehearsing stunts, adjusting lights. He falls, gets up, falls again, laughs at himself, repeats until perfection. Unarada, or to him, art was not a performance, it was a responsibility. Back in Switzerland, the night sky stretches across the land like a velvet curtain. Stars shimmer quietly, their reflections dancing on the lake. Una steps outside, Chaplin's coat wrapped around her shoulders. She looks up. Unarada, Ursh. Often wondered how a man who carried so much sorrow could create so much joy, perhaps. That was his magic, that he turned his wounds into wings, his tears into laughter, his loneliness into a legacy. The wind gently lifts the edge of the coat, almost like a familiar hand touching her shoulder. She closes her eyes, whispering something only the night can hear. We transition to a montage of people across the world watching Chaplin's films. A small village in India, children gathered around a tiny television, a hospital room, patients smiling despite their pain, a group of elderly people in a home, one wiping a tear from his eye, a young filmmaker studying his movements, frame by frame, a soldier in a faraway desert laughing during a rare moment of peace. Unarada, across continents and generations. His silent language still speaks. It reaches the lonely. It comforts the broken. It reminds us that humanity is a shared heartbeat in every corner of the world. The tramp walks on, forever poor, forever innocent, yet forever rich in spirit. Back to the Swiss home. A small breeze enters through the open window, fluttering the pages of the notebook. The last page shows a simple sketch. The tramp walking toward a horizon, cane in hand, one foot lifted mid-step. Under it, a line written in Chaplin's shaky handwriting. The end is only the beginning in another direction. The camera stays on this page. The breeze continues gently. A single leaf drifts inside. Landing softly on the desk, narrator VO. He understood what few ever do, that life isn't measured in years, but in moments that touch the soul. And his moments. Still breathe, the screen slowly fades to black. The sound of distant applause begins softly, not thunderous, not overwhelming. Just enough to suggest that somewhere, somehow, an audience is still watching him. Still smiling, still grateful. Narrator VO. The curtain falls, but the laughter never does. The screen fades in slowly with the sound of gentle wind sweeping across an open field. The Swiss landscape stretches endlessly, green hills, a quiet lake reflecting the sky, and the soft glow of a rising sun. A narrow path cuts through the grass. A pair of footsteps echo faintly, not real footsteps, but remembered ones. Narrator VO. Some lives do not fade with time, some lives echo. We move through the garden where Chaplin once walked every morning. His wooden chair sits beneath an old tree, empty now, but still holding the warmth of memories. A child's laughter drifts in the wind, not present, but eternal. Cut to a close-up of his cane resting beside the chair. A symbol of fragility, a symbol of strength. The camera slowly rises, revealing mountains glowing in the early light. Unarada, or he, believed that every sunrise was a second chance, a new frame, a new scene. Even in his final years, when the world had become quieter, his eyes still carried a spark, a tiny flame refusing to die. Inside the house, the projector sits on a small table, its metal parts worn, its reels dusty. Yet it stands proud, like a soldier that fought more battles than anyone knew. Una enters the room. Lighting a small lamp, she touches the projector. Gently. Unarada. Arsha knew this machine was more than metal and wheels. It was the heart that carried his dreams into the world. Una threads one of the old films through the projector. The familiar clicking begins. A warm beam of light fills the air, scattering dust like stars. On the wall, the tramp appears a silhouette first, then a figure full of clumsy grace. He stumbles, he bows, he smiles. The glow of the screen illuminates Una's face. Her eyes shine as she watches the man she loved. Now, living in the flicker of memories, the camera slowly pushes forward into the projected image. We are inside the world of black and white. A street corner, a soft light. The tramp walks forward, tipping his hat to strangers, turning loneliness into charm. Unreiterated, a character who carried sorrow, lightly a man who had nothing, yet gave everything. A wanderer who never found a home, because he belonged everywhere. The tramp looks up at the sky. A single star twinkles above him. He reaches out with that familiar innocence, touching it as though it's within reach. The screen freezes. Cut to the present, the real world. Una wipes a tear from her cheek, not of sadness, but of completion. Una roared his journey was not defined by fame or success. It was defined by the courage to feel, to love, to laugh in the face of darkness, he once said. Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in long shot. Perhaps that was his gift, to step back far enough to find beauty in chaos. Outside, the garden glows under a full moon. The camera glides toward the lake where the water ripples gently. For a brief moment as moonlight touches the surface, a reflection appears. A cane, a hat, a small figure walking softly across the water's edge. A whisper of movement, a familiar posture. Then it fades. Unarator, our legends do not disappear. They dissolve into the places they loved, into the hearts they touched, into the stories that refuse to die. The screen a soft piano melody begins slow. Tender, unmistakably Chaplin style. Images appear one by one. The tramp, feeding a starving child, walking hand in hand with the blind girl, skipping joyfully on a dusty road, fighting machines with stubborn humor, standing alone against the world, yet never defeated. Narrator, VO. He taught us that laughter is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. It is the bridge between people, and sometimes it is the only thing that keeps us human. The piano grows softer. Black screen. A single final line appears. He lived lightly, so the world could smile heavily. Silence. Then a faint echo of applause, distant, gentle, eternal. The story ends, but the laughter continues.